Hey there, guys, and welcome back. And it has been a while. So, original intentions were to get back to streaming the 1st of January. It is now the 7th of January. Actually, I take that back. Probably the 2nd of January is when I would have started. But, point being, first week of January, we're not the end of the first week of January. So, obviously, things are a bit behind schedule. But that is only because I've been working on projects and I really wanted to have projects ready to go before I started streaming. So, you may ask yourself, why then am I doing a talk stream when I was supposed to be starting off immediately with projects? And that's because the project I was going to start off with I ended up deciding to expand on it. It's done, the main part of it is done, but I wanted to add more pieces to it, make it more flexible, which is going to be a pun once you figure out what it is, but that is coming. I designed the first part of the add-on this morning, and then the rest of it should get done pretty much immediately. The rest of it is very simple to slap together. So I plan to have that done by this afternoon, and we'll do a stream on that one this afternoon. The other projects I have going on, so I was juggling 4 projects. The first one was, it's one of those things, no sense beating around the bush. The first one that I was going to do this morning was the Dremel Press version 2. Again, that's one I didn't want to do on stream. I didn't want to design on stream since we spent all that time designing press number 1. But with press number 2, got it designed over the break and it was ready to go. And I decided, you know what? Let's go ahead and add a little bit more onto this. So that's what happened, and therefore it is not immediately ready because I want to add pieces to it. It's going to take about 2 hours to print the first major piece, and then the rest of the pieces hopefully should get done pretty soon after that. I'm actually thinking now, if it's going to take 2.5 hours to print, according to the slicer, just the first piece, in that case maybe it won't be done by this afternoon. So we may pivot. And it's one of those things. It's a stupid little add-on, and therefore I was thinking it would get done quick, but the slicer actually is arguing with me right now, saying that I do not print quickly enough on my Prusa. So, alright, that may not be happening this afternoon. I guess instead what we can do is we can pick back up on the data editor for Lightlike. That still needs to get done, so we'll consider that for this afternoon. Second project that I was working on over the break is actually going to come out as a full video, I'm pretty sure. It's rather large. It's a DIY rather large project, and therefore it does not exactly fit on my desktop. So since it does not exactly fit on my desktop, it's kind of hard to live stream it. Not only that, but given the I guess category of the project, it actually makes more sense as a standalone video, which we've done in the past. I've done standalone videos in the past. The only reason I don't do them more often, well, there's 2 reasons I don't do them more often. The first one is just plain editing time. It's, I could spend 20 hours editing a video, or I could spend 20 hours working on a project, right? So, one of those deals. The second reason is that I do actually think that more people should live stream, and I talked about this way back when I first started the channel. Is I think it's useful to have people live streaming development, just because otherwise, well, there's a couple reasons. One, it's just kind of nice to be able to hang out and watch people do stuff, watch how they do it, and pick up on things. The second thing, though, is that for a lot of people coming into various hobbies, you may not know exactly where to start, and there's kind of a difference between a tutorial video and just watching someone do things. A tutorial video only gives you a very specific process for doing things, and it does not exactly cover, they generally do not exactly cover all the possible things that you may also need to consider. So for example, when designing 3D prints, right, I can sit here and I can do a tutorial that, well, actually, you know what, rather than giving a hypothetical, Teaching Tech did a series on getting into designing for 3D printing, and you can check that out. One of those things, a little plug there, not that I'm anybody with any kind of reach, but I'll plug nonetheless. And that series, last I checked, was up to 7 videos. And I think they were like 20 minutes apiece. So you can see how, who's going to exactly sit through 140 minutes? Did I do the math wrong? 7 times 20. Yeah, 140 minutes. Okay, I did do the math right there. It's a 2-hour tutorial, basically, is the last I checked, and for all I know, it could be longer. And that is just me, pulling those numbers off the top of my head. If I wanted to, I could hop over onto YouTube right now while we're talking and actually check, but it's one of those things. It's over 2 hours worth of tutorials, and that's really intimidating, isn't it? So it makes, I think there is a lot of value in doing, and sorry, let me mute this tab. I think there's a lot of value in watching people start from zero and build as they go. So, okay, here's the playlist. So there's actually 11 videos now. And, okay, so I'm going to say that the average is closer to 15 minutes. We got a 20-minute, and we have a couple over 15, but we also have a couple under 15, whereas the rest of them, so 15 times 11 is, what, 165 or something like that? So we're still over 2 hours. 15 times 11, 165. Yes, I was correct. Math on stream. Nice. Divided by 60 is 2 3/4 hours. 2 hours and 45 minutes. So nearly 3 hours tutorial, start to finish for project. I mean, he does various products in this tutorial series, but the fact of the matter is that there's a lot of stuff going on in there. And when you look at this playlist and you go, okay, it's a 2 and nearly 3 hour playlist. Do I really want to sit through all that, or do I want to start designing? I think it is useful, like I said, to be able to get this wider view and see everything that's going on. And even if you don't understand everything that's going on as somebody streaming through it, you can ask for feedback. You've got the immediate chat function right there, and you get immediate responses, which is nice, as opposed to leaving a comment hoping it doesn't get buried, etc. Not that, comments can't get buried in chat, but point being is that there is some value there. And the other thing is that there are weird things that come up as you're designing that are edge cases, and it's nice to be able to see those edge cases pop up and how they get dealt with. So that is where I stand on that. And just a reminder, because again, it's been a while since I talked about that, why I do mostly streams as opposed to mostly produced videos like the rest of the maker community, or at least the majority of the maker community. There probably are people out there who live stream designs as well, but I would definitely say that those people, like myself, are in the minority. And again, I should clarify, I think that's fine. I think that's fine that we're in the minority, but I think that such channels should exist just because they add a different aspect to the whole entire learning process. And like I said, it's kind of nice to just kind of chill out and watch people do things. So there are maker channels that I've watched, where there is no commentary. There's just like ClickSpring. Well, not the ClickSpring main channel, but the ClickSpring clips or offcuts, whatever it is. That channel, no commentary. It's just watching him do stuff, and it's pretty nice. That is a supercut video. It's a supercut produced video, but it's the same kind of idea. So, point being, let's see. So that was that ramble right there. That came off of project number 2. Project number 2 is, like I said, going to be a produced video. It is a large object, and I have one final problem with it, which is that it's got a motor on it, and the motor is causing a lot of resonance in the system. Now that I have it all assembled, there was no resonance when it was not assembled. Obviously, as you add pieces, that may happen. I'm going to attempt to dampen that, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's one of these projects where I'm probably going to go ahead and keep it around and use it, but after doing additional research, I'm not sure how feasible it is for like 99.9% of people. I happen to have the parts sitting around, so one of those things. I have the parts sitting around, and I have a 3D printer, so it makes sense, for me. So it's not that big of a deal. But looking at the alternatives online, the price difference is just plain not that great. So I think that it's going to be one of those situations where, look, this is this cool thing I built from scratch, or well, mostly from scratch, from spare parts and whatnot. And but if you really wanted one of these, I would not go out and hunt down the spare parts yourself. Yeah, I would just buy it brand new. One of those Great Scott DIY or buy type videos. So that is project number 2. Project number 3 and 4, and this is part of the reason why I delayed coming back to stream, because whoops, sorry about that. I'm playing with a 3D print right now in my hands, which hopefully the microphone has not been picking up. I did not consider that. It's been a while. I forgot that things make noise on the microphone. And actually, let me adjust the microphone up a little bit because I am crouching again. All right, there we go. And now 3D print should be further away from the microphone to begin with. So, projects 2 and 3, I wanted to have all 4 of these projects ready for a stream. Project 3 is a very simple Arduino based project. I say simple with quotation marks here, air quotes that you can't see. And it is really a lot of plug and play Arduino stuff. My gimmick here on it is that I wanted to use an ATtiny 13. I have ATtiny 13s that I bought for fun. And technically speaking, I have enough pins on it. ATtiny has 4 pins, okay? 4 available pins. Wait, no, I'm sorry. 6 available pins. Although I think 1 is a reset. But point being is that it has a very limited number of pins, and I technically have just barely enough pin slots to do this. But the problem is that I'm interfacing with I2C in order to pull it off, because it is a lot of components getting plugged into this very, very small package. ATtiny 13 is like one of the smallest microcontrollers. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say it's one of the smallest microcontrollers. It is a very minimal microcontroller. Although obviously still flashable via Arduino firmware and one of those ATtiny flasher builds that you can put together, or breadboard if you don't want to actually make a permanent fixture. But the ATtiny 13, I figured it was just a cool take on the project. It was a cool alternative on how to do this project using the ATtiny 13. But the ATtiny 13, one of those things, so it uses TinyWire because it's one of the ATtiny models. I have ATtiny 13s and 85s. I ran into an issue with getting the I2C working on it, which is a little bit of a problem. I know that I2C works on the 85s. I have 85s, so first alternative here is to swap out the 13 for the 85, which is still reasonable. You know, it's still, a very small package. It's the same size package between the two. It's just the 85 is obviously more powerful. So that would be, kind of within the parameters of the build objectives. The objectives of the build design. What's the term I normally use? Regardless, it's within the parameters that the design decisions we wanted to make. So that would still be a valid, viable option. I want to try a little bit more to get the 13 working though, just because that is the quintessential, this is something we've definitely done. We've definitely done a thing here. So I'd like to work on it a little bit more. Again, that's the last problem with it. Everything else should go just fine because, again, it's plug and play Arduino components. So very, very straightforward. It should all just work after that point. One of those things, even without getting the I2C working, I can still run it through the compiler and make sure that all the compile errors are out, which I've done already. So I know that at least my code is valid. It's just a matter of getting the hardware to work correctly. So that's the holdup on that one, and part of the reason, again, why we did not get started at the start of the week. The final project is actually and I'll go ahead and spoil this one a little bit. I finally got back around to doing the coiler decoiler. That's been sitting over on my side table for a while now. And I finally got around to buying a new motor for it. Now, hilariously, the first motor I bought for it, I was trying to keep within the low voltage range area because I wanted it to just work off of Arduino power levels, okay? So I wanted to stay down there. And the first one I bought, I did not actually look at the size of it. And it's actually smaller than the Arduino itself. It was this little tiny motor, geared motor. So I sent that one back. And I picked up a much more beefy one at 9 volts. I think it's actually rated 9 to 12 volts. But I plan on running it at 9 volts. That way the onboard power regulator on the Arduino can handle the step down to 5 volts. Might want to toss a heatsink on that guy. I do fortunately have a box of heatsinks sitting around, so that's not that big of a deal. But that's where we're at. And the hold up on that one, why that one is not ready, and again, delaying everything. Although, one of these things, well, I'll get to that in just a minute. But, hold up on that one is that I was ready and raring to go, had it all hooked up. And I went, oh crap, that's right. When I made the belt last time, I spliced a straight belt into a loop. And I had decided that the way I was splicing it via tutorials, just going off of tutorials I had seen, was not really that great in this situation, that it was not running terribly well. And I had therefore thrown it out. I had forgot that I had actually thrown that belt out. So all of a sudden I needed a new belt. And since I had decided previously and had thrown out the other belt, I decided to just get a round belt to a closed loop belt to begin with. That was supposed to arrive like 4 days ago. That still has not arrived. So one of these things, I'm thinking about canceling it and just rebuying, which I really should do. Honestly, it's one of those things, 4 days later, I really should have, heck, honestly, 2 days later, at the very least, I probably should have just given up on it arriving, canceled the order, and bought another one. But, yeah, with enough going on in my life, wasn't exactly that much thought put into it, because again, it's just sitting back on my side table, and I don't exactly look at it every day. So, and that is the deal with that. Otherwise, like as I said before, so the last thing that may be an issue once I get this decoiler running is I may need to do something about the what do you call it? The expander on the inside that holds the coil. That mechanism, depending on the torque, could start slipping, is the biggest problem. And there's a couple fixes to that. We'll see what happens. I may have to redesign that mechanism. It shouldn't be too difficult to do, but it is, one of those things that will set me back a day or two at most, hopefully a day or two at most. So again, we'll see what happens. And those were the 4 projects I got done at home. I mentioned this on stream, that normally, actually I don't know if I mentioned this on stream. I know I complained about the fact that the holidays were on weekends this year, which meant, and I said, I believe, that I did not have as much time off. What I meant by that, because fact of the matter is that I probably had the same amount of days off as normal, even though it was a weekend. But normally what happens when the holidays are in the middle of the week, the other guys at work will take off the whole week, and I will have the shop all to myself. So then I get to do fun upgrade projects all around the shop, upgrade and cleaning. I've been cleaning that shop, I spent 2 or 3 years just cleaning the shop, just getting crap thrown out. So I probably wasn't going to do any of that this year. Actually, I don't think I had any of that to do this year because I've been keeping it clean. But there were various upgrades that I was looking forward to implementing in the shop since nobody was around to get in my way. And unfortunately, they didn't take off all week. So they worked most of the weeks because it was on the weekend. So I only had 2 days to myself in the shop over the past 2 weeks. Or not the past 2 weeks, because in the 2 weeks leading up to Christmas and between Christmas and New Year's, I only had 2 days to myself. So I did not get to do nearly as much done as I wanted to. But I did get some fun projects done anyway. So, for example, I refinished my horses in the one bay. I have horses in the one bay which are used for painting. They get obviously caked up with paint, so I scraped them and refinished them, which was cool. And then I did a bunch of wiring in my area. So I have an area of the shop that I've cleared out and claimed for myself. And unofficially, unfortunately, it's one of those things. Nobody has ever gone up there, and it used to be an absolute mess. I cleaned it all up, made it actually usable, and then immediately people started dumping stuff in it again, which was kind of annoying, but I kept it to a minimum, kept an area open, and I got, sorry, excuse me. And I got some wiring done up in there to get myself power up there. I had been running an extension cord for the longest time to do stuff up there, and now I finally have some hardwire up there to access. The other thing I would have gotten done is mounting LED lights up there. So here's an interesting argument, okay? I know a lot of people will recommend making LED panels out of LED strips. I've been looking at the prices of that, and I cannot fathom why that is the recommendation, as opposed to just buying LED bulbs. Now, I guess I said I can't fathom. There is one counter argument there, which is that the LED bulbs, in order to get a good price on them, you got to drop $100 to get a full box. I'll admit that is a little bit constraining. I'll admit that is a consideration. And I suppose if you're only doing like 2 lights, let's say in your garage, you're just setting up 2 light fixtures in your garage, that might be a serious, reason not to get LED bulbs, because you're going to put 4 bulbs up to those 2 fixtures, and then you're going to have 16 of them sitting around in a box for forever, because in theory LED bulbs last forever. So I can understand that argument. That's certainly a reason why you would grab an LED strip instead. But looking at the price comparison of LED strips, they're priced pretty high compared to just buying a bulb. You buy the bulb, you buy the tombstones, and then you just mount the tombstones into something, and you're good to go. The other thing to understand, and I don't know that people really recognize this, is that I cannot think of a particularly good reason, depending on how you're mounting them, to have a full diffuser encasing them. You get frosted LED bulbs. Frosted LED bulbs are directional to begin with, right? These are not fluorescent bulbs. Fluorescent bulbs, you had a diffuser and you had a reflector, more specifically, which I probably should have used instead of diffuser, but you had the reflector, more specifically, which is the thing that the metal part that encases it, right? The reflector housing was there specifically because the bulb put out light in all directions. So you wanted all to bounce off the white backing, most time it's white, backing, and back down to the floor so that you're using as much of the light as you can. Well, that's no longer a consideration with LED bulbs. LED bulbs are putting all their light in the direction you want it. So for that reason, you don't really need a full case for the LED bulbs. Like, unless you have a reason to believe that something is going to fall through your ceiling and smash through your LED bulbs. And even then, LED bulbs are plastic. They're not, at least 99.99% of the bulbs that I've seen on the market are plastic casings. They're not glass. So even if something does bust through your LED bulb, it's not going to make a mess. Like, it's not going to get glass everywhere. It's going to snap in half because it's plastic, and you're just going to have 2 ragged plastic pieces. So LED bulb, and furthermore, let's say it breaks through, whatever smashed through your roof, whatever, I don't know, frozen turkey fell through the roof of your garage, okay? let's say even in that case, if a frozen turkey smashed through the roof of your garage and just so happened to hit the LED light fixture, okay, and busted through the LED strips, the LED strips in there should only be running at the normal voltage levels, which LED strips I think are 12 volts, so it's not even that much current. So it's 12 volts and they're normally something like 10 amps or 10 watts actually. I think they're only like 10 watts. So I mean, we're talking like 1 amp of power maybe running through that at 12 volts. So one of these things, it does not appear to me to be an electrical problem. It does not appear to me to be a glass safety problem. It does not have anything to do with light reflection. So the point I'm getting here is back to, you get some tombstones, you get the bulbs, and then you just gotta print up a housing or make a housing for the tombstones, and then you're basically done. You don't need a full 4 to 8 foot fixture. You only need the ends. You can just mount the ends and you're good. And if you're concerned about, let's say, so LED bulbs have their own transformers on the inside, okay, to step down from line voltage to the 12 volts that they need. Again, I'm thinking it's 12 volts. It's been a while. But point being is, even if you're concerned about there being some problem there, well, fact of the matter is that you could, well, first off, should be on, a breaker to begin with. You probably can put them on a GFCI plug outlet on top of that. So you've got them on a breaker, a GFCI outlet, and then if you really wanted to, if you're really that concerned, the transformer is only on one end. The transformer rectifier is only on one end of the bulb. It's not on both ends. So the side you plug in to the mains line power line, you can even reinforce, right? Like you can get, for example, I've never done this, but based on the size, having done plastic housings for the LED bulbs before, based on the size of those, I'm pretty sure I'm not pretty sure. I'm 100% sure that part of the bulb that houses the transformer and rectifier will fit inside of a junction box. So you could take a junction box, drum out the one side of it, and then build or print a housing to put the the tombstones in. And at that point, the tombstones are protected, the rectifier transformer is protected from random turkeys coming through your roof, and you're kosher. Like, what more do you really expect to happen here? Again, it's a junction box. If you really want to, I don't know, you can try to weatherproof the junction box just in case it begins raining through your roof. But again, if it starts raining through your roof, now you're looking at your GFCI plug, shorting that out. So I don't know. One of these things, I'm throwing it out there because it's something that has always been weird to me. Again, the only justification is just the cost to get started. The cost to get started, if you're not going to use most of the 20 bulbs, then I can understand $100 to drop on lighting. But at the same time, I'd really have to look at what you can get in LED strips, 400 bulbs. Again, I do not recall, or $400. I do not recall LED strips being that cost effective, because, especially, understand, LED strips, I'm pretty sure there are 2 rows of LED strips in each bulb. So each bulb is worth, let's say, 8 foot of LED strip, assuming a 4 foot bulb. So it's a 4 foot bulb, and then you got 2 of them, so that's 8 foot of LED strip. And I want to say the LED strips come on like 10 meter, or no, maybe not 10 meter, maybe 5 meter. Let's see. Amazon LED strip lights. Alright, so just off of Amazon, and it's one of those things, I'm not saying Amazon is the best place to get LED lights, but it's looking about, what if I just want white? What if I don't want RGB? Let me try to swap this over to white really quick. White. Okay, and yeah, just for the record, it does say 12 volts here. I was saying I'm pretty sure it's 12 volts. It is 12 volts. So I'm seeing a lot of $20 for... What is this length? The length is not... Oh, 16... Okay, that's weird. I'm trying to parse this out because I'm actually seeing like 40, 50, 16 foot, all of them priced at $20. So obviously there's a difference here. Okay, you know what? I went on a many minute ramble there. I can in fact justify this, okay? Continue to justify my ramble existing, because the other thing that you may need to worry about is... Actually, no, I guess I can't. I take it back. Alright, so if you can get them at 50 foot, for some reason, I could have swore it was like only 10 foot for $20 is what I thought it was, whereas an LED bulb is like $10 for a 4-footer. And again, that 4-footer being 8 foot worth of LED strips. So LED bulb T8. Yeah, LED bulb T8s. Actually, this one's saying $5 and $6 per count, which actually I think makes sense. I think that is correct, because I was saying 20, yeah, 20 pack for $100. Yeah, so it's like $5 a bulb. So $5 a bulb is $5 per 8 foot. We can round that up to $5 for 10 foot. So, okay, so I guess the only other thing I can say about this is that at least with the bulbs, you do not have the problem of the power supply, getting the power supply plugged in. So most of these bulbs, one of these things, so when you see people do, or at least when I've seen people do the LED panels, they use an external power supply, which was the other thing I was going to mention eventually. They'd use a 12-24 volt power supply, and those I think are like $20 a piece, which is adding to the cost. So I was thinking of these like Meanwhile style ones, like that come with printers, is what I was thinking. And those do look to be, I'm gonna round it to $20 just because you know what, I probably shouldn't. I was averaging a couple of these, but for LED lights. But that may not be necessary. Nah, alright, I think $20 is about correct. So the only other argument I've got here, okay? Because at this point, if you can really get 50 foot of LED lights for $20, if these are actually decent light bulbs, LED diodes, I should say. If these are actually decent LED diodes, then that is actually not that bad. That price is not that bad, between assuming that, well, actually that's where I was going with this. So the only difference then at that point, because again, 50 foot for $20 again, and I keep on saying again because again, but I kind of want to emphasize that I'm a little surprised at the cost here. And I'm starting to wonder whether or not these aren't cheap, crappy ones that I'm looking at, honestly. And if it shouldn't be more of the $40 for 50 foot, which is what I'm seeing here lower down on the list. one of those things. I'm on Amazon right now, so you can find a lot of cheap crap on Amazon. Regardless, so assuming you can get the same quality LED diodes as you get inside the bulbs, then the things that you're saving on at that point is, one, you do not have to run a 12 volt line to each of the panels, because again, we're working off of a multiple light fixture pattern here. We're like lighting a garage or a work area, okay, was the premise here, which is why you were getting a multi-pack of LED bulbs. You were getting 20 LED bulbs because you were lighting a full area. The point being is that if you only have one 12 volt power supply running all the bulbs, then you've got to run all that wire to each of the bulbs. And the problem is at 12 volts that is a lot of distance to run at only 12 volts. It's not quite, the resistance in the wire starts becoming a problem at that point, and you start getting power drops. So that is a little bit of a concern. One of these things, you may very well be able to make it work. The alternative, whereas I should say, let me finish that thought. Whereas with the bulbs, you're just running mains line to each of the bulbs, or close enough to each of the bulbs that you can run an extension cord to your DIY bulb housing. So that's the benefit. The benefit is that since each of the bulbs has its own transformer, it's a lot easier to get power to them. The final thing, what was the final thing I was going to say? Yeah, alternatively, if you got to buy a 12 volt 2 amp power supply, plug-in brick for each of these panels, then you're adding $6 per panel. So you've got $6 per panel plus the bulbs itself, which honestly, again, may only be $2 or $3 if we really are getting them for $50 for a 50 footer. Or I guess that's like more like $5, right? Because we said 10 foot ish per bulb. So that's actually no, that would be more like, hold on, I've done enough math on stream. Let me grab the calculator. All right, so if we have $20 to buy by 50 foot, that's 40 cents per foot times 4. So there's 2 strips per bulb, so that's 8. 8 times 2 bulbs is 16. So times 16 is $6 per fixture, plus your 12 volt plug, which is another $6. So you're at $12 per fixture, as opposed to $10 per fixture with the bulbs. And the final point I was going to make at this point, the final argument I was going to make at this point, so I'm not reusing my words, so I'm using a little bit of variety in how I speak, is that the housing for the tombstones is a lot smaller than the housing for the panel. So that is going to cost something, right? Building the housing for the panel to put these LED strips on, these 8 foot times 4 was 24, no, 1632. So this 32 foot worth of strips, this 32 foot worth of strips is going to need a panel, and that is going to cost something, whereas that cost in the LED bulbs is already taken up, and then you just need the tombstone holders. So I don't know, I still think it's worth considering. I'll admit it's a lot closer than I thought it was, assuming that these $20 for 50 foot strands that I'm seeing here are not super crap. Assuming these things are not super crap. The other thing I guess I will mention, as I continue to argue with this with myself, is that the LED bulbs are a lot easier to replace than replacing an LED strip on your panel. So if a strip goes bad on your panel, or if a number of diodes on the strip go bad on the panel and you want to replace it, now you've got to scrape that strip off of the panel, and then on top of that, and then you got to unsolder it, replace the strip on the panel. Well, clean the panel portion where the strip was at before so that you actually have a clean surface to remount the next strip on. Otherwise, the adhesive is not going to work as well. And then resolder, etc. And obviously, the difference here with the bulb is the bulb you pull out, you throw in the trash, you put a new bulb in. You're done. You know, the ease of changing these things out is a lot simpler. So, that is my argument. That is my argument. And I think that's enough talking about LED bulbs. So, let's see. How was everybody's holiday? I know everybody says they got to go to the gym after the holidays. I actually have to go to the gym after the holidays. So, I don't know how much I talked about this on stream. I went through something like... I decided to do a little experiment with my body a few years ago. And I decided to see if I ate like an absolute hedonist for like basically however long it took. I wanted to see how long it took me to get from 200 to 230. I honestly, I've been a reasonably healthy person, so I didn't see the harm in it. You can make your arguments, but I thought it was an interesting experiment. So I ate whatever the heck I wanted, and it took me about 5 years to get from 200 to 230 pounds, eating absolutely ridiculous amounts of food, which, I guess that's me accidentally bragging, but point being is that I then had to lose the weight, and last summer? Was it last summer? Because I've been streaming for about a year now. So, was that... time is a little difficult. I believe it was I think it was last summer. No, it was not last summer. So two summers ago. Yes, that is correct. 2 summers ago, I said, okay, you know what? I hit 230. Took me 5 years. Experiment over. We're good. And I started working on my diet, so I just slowly cut things out over the course of about 3 months. And then in the fall, I was finally done cutting things out of my diet, getting myself back down to a normal human diet. And I started running. Went to a nearby open space and started running. And in between the running and the diet, I managed to get down to 200 by Christmas of that year. So that was pretty good. Going from fall to winter, losing 30 pounds. Pretty good. So I was at 200, between 200 and 205, just because I guess it was actually a little bit before Christmas, only because I recall having to stop running because it was getting too darn cold out. A little bit before then. So, one of those things, 2-3 months, lost 30 pounds, pretty good. And even with that Christmas, even with the holidays that Christmas and New Year's, I only, ended up being, somewhere between 200 and 205 for basically all of last year. So, last year before I started streaming, and then all the way up to, I should say, this holiday, I was around about 200, 205. So, obviously, it has been a few years since I started said experiment. We're talking like 6-7 years at this point. And I literally put on 10 pounds this past holiday season. I don't know. There was just... My diet normally, my normal diet, is pretty minimal. And I just decided, you know what, I've been doing good with my weight, and I'm just going to go ahead and feel free to eat all the cookies and the chocolates that I feel like eating. And right now, I ended up at 205, at the beginning of last year, after the holidays were over. And maintained 205 throughout the year, and from 205, I am now at 215. So, I, again, as I said, literally have to get to the gym at this point. The goal actually was not to hang out at 205, 200, It was actually to get back down to, because at one point I was hanging out in the 180 to 190 range. I was planning on getting back down to 180 and then seeing where I kind of leveled at between 180 and 190. That was the initial goal. And then last year I started streaming, and I just, one of those things, had a lot going on otherwise, and never ended up going around putting the extra effort in, I should say, to exercise and get myself the rest of the way down from 200 to 180. But that is the New Year's resolution at this point. And New Year's resolution is to finally get back down to 180 where I was originally, or I used to be, I should say, and see what happens. And I say see what happens because I'm not going to force myself to stay at 180. I'll see whether or not, with, again, my pretty minimal diet that I maintain, whether or not I can hang out, whether not my body reaches equilibrium, I guess is how I should put it, somewhere between the 180 and 190 range. Honestly, if I can't stay below 190, I might go ahead and just, put the extra work in to keep it down below 190 or at or below 190. But besides that, yeah, we'll see what happens. Definitely too much food this Christmas and New Year's. So, let's see. Do I have any more news to share? We already talked about all my projects here and at work. Talked about my weight being horrendous. Oh, I've got, actually, so there was a fifth project that I started working on and then kind of just got lost in the shuffle. And frankly, plexiglass is expensive. I'm trying, part of the reason why it got lost in the shuffle is because I wanted to do a full plexiglass enclosure. It's been on my bucket list to do a plexiglass enclosure for my Ender. And since we're getting the Ender back up and running, I figured I'd do that. And I went and priced out what I would need, and it is expensive. Now, most people do not do a plexiglass enclosure. Most people get the bags, basically, and do that. Part of the reason why I want to do the plexiglass enclosure is I have an actual alternative intention here. So, while I was prepping the pieces to put the Ender motherboard housing together, I had an idea, and it's been something that's been floating around the back of my head. I did the research on what it would take to get it done, and I decided that it was so simple that I just got to do it. And the biggest problem is that getting it done is not really household friendly, unfortunately, due to the smell it would generate. Unfortunately, well, I guess I shouldn't say unfortunately. Basically, I would not necessarily want to do this at work either, because I have to babysit it. I'd have to be around. And that's just a lot of time at work just doing this project. And then, it's one of those things, if the smell bugs other people at work, then, there's that whole entire other problem. So the point being is that my intention was to get this enclosure built for my Ender 3 and actually use that, instead of putting my Ender 3 in it, use it initially to do this project that I'm talking about, that I'm alluding to. Because in theory, intention is to put fan ports with charcoal filters on the enclosure. That's the point. So the charcoal filters should hopefully neutralize the smell. So, assuming that all that would work out, that would be a pretty awesome experiment, let's say, initial foray into this area. And I really want to do it. It's just, I have not been able to find an alternative to plexiglass that I'm really happy with. And that is the biggest problem. I've looked at a few different materials to alternatively use to make the enclosure, but I'm just plain not happy with them. So at this point, it's looking like I'm going to have to shell out the cash and for plexiglass, and plexiglass, like I said, is expensive. So let me just pull that back up because it's been a week or, I mean, actually it's probably been 2 weeks because I thought of this. I had this on the edge of my mind very early, or very late, I should say. Sorry, my brain. I had this on my mind just prior to going on break. It's something that popped into my mind right before I went on the holiday break. And plexiglass and 0.118 is, I think, what I was hoping to get away with. And yeah, so oh, that's right. Is it 0.093? Because this is the price I was thinking about. So what is 0.093 on the fractions? Fraction decimal chart. Fraction decimal chart. 0.093. I was thinking about somewhere between a 16th and an 8th, and 0.093 is 3/32, which is right between a 16th and an H. So I think that's where, because again, the price is so prohibitive. So maybe that's what I was thinking of. Maybe I was going to go all the way down to, well, let me take a quick look really quick. Because the problem is with the, yeah, okay. So maybe it was the 118, the 1/8 inch. Only because, I'm only saying that because I'm looking at a sheet here that's 24 by 48. And I was thinking that each side was going to cost me about $50. Which, you know, when you've got a 6-sided cube, is a lot of money. $300 right there. So, yeah, shoot. Looking at the price again. Oh boy, why is plexiglass so expensive? You know, I haven't actually thought about doing this in just straight up glass because putting the portholes in it is going to be a nightmare. But maybe I do. Maybe I do need to do this in just glass. Again, the portholes are the biggest problem with this. I'm looking. But honestly, it looks like glass isn't even that much cheaper. Oh no, this is still acrylic. Why is it still giving me acrylic? Glass. Glass, plastic sheets, plexiglass. Why is it? Huh, this is funny. Glass and plastic sheets. Glass sheets. Actually, you know what? Hold on. I just had an idea. Give me half a second. I noticed there's a category here on Home Das Depot, on Das Depot website, for sneeze guards. I'm kind of curious whether or not sneeze guards I can get for cheaper and then just cut them down. And it does not look like it, no. The answer is no. Okay. I thought that would have been an interesting hack. Okay, so... Okay, it looks like it maybe I could half my price. Actually, that's the thin one. That's the 3/32. Yeah, alright. So it does look like it would be a little bit cheaper to do it in glass. It's just... That is scary. Doing it in glass is scary. Yeah, so anyway. My biggest problem, again, is figuring out a material that is cheap enough to do the enclosure in, but still gets me everything I want out of it. So that is the holdup on that one, unfortunately. Alternatively, I can do this outside I could do it outside. That's a little bit sketchy, but yeah, it might be my only alternative. And then just forget the enclosure altogether. So that is that for that topic. Oh, something I have not gotten around to mentioning or using on stream because it did not really come up. I had this old Wacom tablet from a long time ago sitting around, and because it's so hard to see most of the time, my writing on the camera, let me plug it in. Let's see. And then where'd the pen go? I pulled it out and I'm looking at using this. Yep, looks like it's working. So let me see if I can't get a whiteboard up here. Do we have a whiteboard? I was looking at using this to draw on stream instead of on a white piece of paper. Now, frankly, ooh, there's a whiteboard. Cool. Whiteboard, freehand, yeah. All right, let's see what happens here. There we go. So I'm getting really laggy here using the whiteboard on the is this even showing up on stream is the other question. Preview window is a little bit delayed for me. Oh, there it goes. Okay, yes. So you're seeing this on stream. So one of those things, I wouldn't be using the in streaming software whiteboard, but to do this, but there you go. So Scribbles. So I'm looking at setting that up and using that to draw from now on. Just because, again, the paper thing, I like the paper just because it's like real, you know, like it's cool to have it, you know, just to be sitting here and to have it on the camera scribbling. I don't know. There's just something about it. There's something about having an actual physical piece of paper and drawing out what I want to design. So, and I really do like that. It's just that the camera does not pick up the paper very well. Does not, well, more specifically, does not pick up what I'm drawing on the paper very well. So that is a serious issue, and therefore I'm looking at swapping over to this Wacom tablet and drawing digitally from now on. So that is probably the last of the things I wanted to talk about today. So one of these things, sorry I was gone for so long. I didn't oh, actually, hold on. Before I get to that part, so my sleep schedule got super foobarred at the beginning of last week because I started another project, which I'm probably going to share on stream. I wasn't sure if I was going to share on stream, which is why I haven't brought it up just yet. But project number 6, I think we're at, either 5 or 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think we're on 6. So project number 6, which I started over the past 2 weeks. I wasn't sure if I was going to share on stream, but maybe I will. But the point is that I was working on that really late on, as in like 2 a.m. on last Sunday. And then I was also up till like 1 on Monday before I went to work at 5 on, or woke up for work, I should say, at 5 on Tuesday. So I've been playing catch up all this week. And therefore I only got in like an hour of Light Lake development so far, but I am starting that one back up. Light Lake is in fact continuing. We will get this thing done. I had wanted it to get it done by the end of the year. That obviously did not happen. Life is what life is. I don't know what else to say. Everything got busy and I did not end up streaming, and I did not end up doing Light Lake over the past 3 weeks. So again, sorry, I would have liked to finish it before the end of last year, but it just plain did not happen. So you can expect more Light Lake in the coming days. So now that I have that out of the way, again, I will apologize for just kind of disappearing on you guys. I was thinking, you know, one of those things, it is exactly as it always is, right? It's always, oh, no, I'll just take a day off of streaming. Oh, well, I got busy and, you know, whoops, we'll get to it tomorrow. And then all of a sudden it's 2 weeks later. And all of a sudden you're making plans to get started at the beginning of the week and none of your materials show up, or you forget to order materials, or the materials that you were planning on using were not the right materials, and all of a sudden it is now Saturday and you are doing your first stream, not even as a project stream, but as a talking stream. So I apologize, it happened. Don't know what more I can say. The only thing I can say is that I do hope you look forward to the projects I do have coming up. Obviously, the Dremel press will be up as soon as possible. I just need to get everything printed, which should be done by the end of tonight. No big deal. And then the project number 2 is going to be a matter of however long it takes me to edit the video. So I can't make any promises on that. What will happen will happen. In the meantime, we have both Disgaea and Chroma Squad, which have been sitting on the back burner. I have not played either since the last time we played them on stream, I should say. So those literally have not progressed beyond what you know, and we will get back to doing some more gaming streams. Chess I got up to 1050. Actually, no, I think I might have hit 1070. And then I am just a roller coaster. I don't know what to tell you. I dropped all the way back down to 980. I want to say 980, maybe 970. And then over the past week, I've gotten back up to 1050. 1030? I might only be at 1030 right now. I think I was at like 1048 and then I lost the game or something like that. Regardless, that's where we're at on that one. So that is the entirety of the state of the channel at this point. And yeah, I think I'm good to just sign off at this point. So thank you guys for hanging out. I hope you've all had a great and wonderful new year, start to the new year. Hope that the rest of the new year is excellent, most excellent for you. And I guess I will catch you guys